Okay, here's a quick review of the Acer A01-431-C2Q8 14-inch laptop. It's also known as the Acer One Cloudbook. This particular laptop cost me £160 from Tesco. It was originally £200. I bought this around 6 weeks ago, so maybe the price has gone up or slightly down since then. In terms of what's inside the machine, it's got an Intel Celeron processor, the N3060 model. It's got Intel HD graphics. It's got 2 GB of DDR3 RAM or memory, and it's got 32 GB of eMMC storage. So it's got very little amount of storage. So bear that in mind if you're hoping to buy this and transfer a lot of your existing files, such as films or music. You won't have a lot of space because Windows 10, which this laptop runs, uses around 10 gigabytes of space maybe with updates, plus with a couple of extra programs installed and programs you want to install. You're probably going to have no more than, say, 5 or 6 gigabytes of free space. So just bear in mind there's not a lot of space on this machine. If you did want to upgrade this, the storage, you could use an SD card slot, which is based here. You could say buy a 64 gigabyte SD card and slot that in and keep it in place and just transfer any files you download or music. In terms of ports, it's got one USB on this side. On the right hand side, this is a standard 2.0 USB. On the left hand side, it has, as I just said, the SD card slot, and it's got a 3.0 USB port here, HDMI, and the power cable goes here. In terms of battery life, the battery is actually built in on this one. You can't remove it or replace it when it dies. You should be able to take the panel off and actually replace the battery, but there's no quick way to do it, no easy way to do it. There's no slots anywhere, there's no panels you can take off. You can't upgrade the memory, you can't install a hard drive. You basically can't install anything. It is what it is. So if you're hoping, thinking, oh, there's only 32 gigabytes of storage, I'll just buy a hard drive. You can't fit a hard drive in here. It's just far too thin. So in terms of what it is, I mean, it's pretty basic build quality. I mean, it feels a bit flimsy around the screen. I mean, you can see how thin that screen is. I'll just show you the difference between a normal modern 15.6-inch laptop. This one's only a couple of weeks old, so it's a modern one. So I put that on top of that. You can see there's a slight size difference, not a lot, in terms of the thickness. Or you can see there's probably, I don't know, maybe a quarter of an inch at best. So I mean, it's slightly smaller than a normal laptop, not a great deal smaller. I mean, I'll turn it on. It actually starts up really fast despite its weak processor and low memory, because it's got flash storage rather than the traditional hard drive. It starts up a lot quicker than a much more powerful PC. Generally, I'd probably say 25 seconds. Just let that load up. I mean, as you can see here, the keyboard, it doesn't have the keys on the right hand side. So the keyboard is actually all the keys are all spaced out different. So you can see there's quite a big space. To show you this laptop here, you can see you have the normal numbered keys on the right hand side. This is a full-size keyboard. This obviously doesn't have the keys here, so all the keys are slightly bigger spaced out. So if you do a lot of typing, you might find it a little bit difficult at first because the keys are more towards the right. So just bear that in mind. As you can see, it's already started up. I mean, it loads up unbelievably fast, which is quite surprising, but because it's got flash storage rather than a hard drive, it's a lot quicker. In terms of the touchpad, it's got one of these large, oversized, precise touchpads. The thing I don't like about these touchpads is you don't get any keys, so you have to, you can either click here and here, but you can't actually rest more than one finger. So you use one finger to move around, and there's one finger down here to click around. So I'm not a great fan of these touchpads with it. You can see my other laptop here. It's actually got a left and right down key. So, but these oversized touchpads, they're good. I mean, they have a lot of small features, but I just don't like the fact you can rest 2 or 3 fingers down here and then use your right finger to move around. But that's a small drawback, in honesty. I mean, I think if you do a lot of work, I prefer to have keys to be able to rest my fingers, but That's just my personal preference. So you can see it's loaded up. I mean, if I click on Firefox, that again loads up really quickly, a couple of seconds, 5-6 seconds maybe. So I mean that loads up really good. I mean, in terms of web browsing, I would probably say that 90% of the sites you visit will load perfectly fast, perfectly fine. But I have found some websites, especially those with a lot of, say, images or advertisement, they can be a little bit sluggish because the processor and the lack of memory is quite weak. It can struggle with certain websites, but generally speaking, 90% of the websites you visit will work absolutely fine. But bear in mind, maybe 5 or 10% of them will struggle. I mean, they will load, but it does take 3, 4, 5 seconds longer than what they normally would. So just bear that in mind. Like I said, in terms of performance, it's very basic. Don't expect to do anything more than web browsing or playing basic games or something like Microsoft Office or things like that. Video processing, forget about it. It won't do that. High demanding games, no way. So this is just for web browsing. It's designed for portability. I mean, it's nice and thin. It's not mega light, but it's not too heavy. So overall, I really do recommend this laptop. I mean, for basic web browsing, basic games, work, Office, stuff like that, it's absolutely fine. For £160, you can't go wrong. Just bear in mind the lack of storage. Especially when Windows takes up so much. Windows 10 takes up a lot of space, so you won't have a lot of space for movies or music or things like that, pictures. So just bear that in mind. But overall, I really like this laptop and I would highly recommend it. Thanks for watching.